of the package. Thank you.
Thank you. We will start with some questions in the room, and then I'll move online where we have questions as well. Just start by saying your name and the media you're from, and we'll start over here. Yeah.
Lucas Knigge for Table Briefings. Mr. Aagaard, how is this a mandate that enables the EU to ask more ambition from others at COP? Because key numbers are missing, like climate finance in 2024, the 2040 target, and the NDC. Like, what do we see in that text that raises the bar for ambition at COP30? And then on the ETS2, Mr. Hoekstra, to what extent can member states pre-auction ETS2 allowances now? Like, what's the amount of money we're talking about here? And to Ms. Roswall, some countries and MEPs asked for a zero-risk category for the deforestation regulation. Why did you decide against suggesting one? Thank you.
I don't think I said that our preparations was over. In the presidency's thinking, we will, after UCO has had the meeting on Thursday, we expect, but we will see the outcome, that we will meet on the 4th of November and decide on the European climate law and the NDC. And in the presidency's mind, these three pillars, the mandate that we decided today, an NDC, ambitious, and a climate law, will give, I would almost say, an unprecedented clear position for EU meeting the rest of the world. And I will not talk the ambition down, but we have decided on a statement of intent on the 18th of November. And the figures that are in that, I can only encourage others to meet that level of ambition. The world would become a more safe place. So I'm very satisfied with what was on the table today, that we as smoothly could get to a position that could accommodate everybody. And then, of course, we will have to build the two remaining pillars in our mind to give us an extremely responsible but also strong position for delivering on the promises that EU has given. But also, as Wopke said, based on that, we are 6% of global emissions. I mean, if EU could solve the climate crisis alone, that'll be the day. But that's not the reality. So this takes a real global effort. So we are not. I mean, we have booked the plane tickets, but we are not in the plane yet, and we have a little bit more work to do before we will head off for Belém.
Thank you. You were asking for the specific pre-auction number. That I will only be able to give you when we come up with the proposal, the formal proposal, which will be in a couple of weeks. But just to put a couple of the other numbers into perspective, when you're talking about the enhancement of the price stability and predictability numbers, we're going to double the number of allowances. They would be available twice a year, and we will do that for a number of years. And if you would do the math of that, you would find that that is very, very significant in terms of our ability to then, without a formal price ceiling, but basically influence and steer the course of action. So that I think is truly a game changer.
Thank you for the question. And yes, there have been a lot of discussions on the zero risk classification. It was raised last year, but it was in the trilogue, but was rejected at that time. And of course, after that, we have discussed it and looked into it very, very thoroughly. I would say I see a lot of risk with zero classification. Both it will start a new and a lengthy process, both internally but also on an international arena. So that is one argument that we don't see the reason to do that. And there is also other issues with the zero risk classification. With that said, I mean, my main interest here was to find a solution that keeping the objective while also doing the simplification that it's not only members of parliaments, or member states, it's also farmers and foresters that I met who was asking for this. So I think with our proposal today, we managed to do both the simplification with taking small and micro operators out of scope, so to say. They only need to do this simplified declaration while keeping the objective, committed to the objective. So I think we have a solution. That's exactly my point.
Pauline Denis, Agence Europe. Commissioner Hoekstra, my questions concern ETS2. Or were the measures you presented today during the AOB point received by member states? Also, you are not proposing to extend the market stability reserve beyond 2031. Is it something you might still consider? And what is your answer to those 5-6 member states stating they clearly want the launch of ETS2 to be postponed? Thank you.
So I don't think I'm overstating it when I'm saying that the response and the reception of the proposal was truly very positive, and it was welcomed very broadly by all of the member states. Please also keep in mind that this proposal has been dealt with and has been accorded with a 2/3 majority of the member states and a majority in Parliament quite recently. If you would then move into, let's say, the further categorization, there is a very significant group of member states, those who didn't sign the letter, but also a significant group within the contingency of writing the letter, who roughly liked the proposal as it already was, and they very much welcomed the letter, but for them it would not be necessary. Then there is a second group that has been extremely positive and who have been very clear that this is alleviating the pain as they have been perceiving it. And if you were to check also the Twitter account of Minister Lasek and his Prime Minister, you would find exactly that sentiment back on there. Then there's also, of course, a couple who said, look, this looks great, but we would love to study the exact details. And the thing we never anticipated, and that is also where your last question was going to, of course, there have been a group of member states that I think you can count on less than the fingers of one hand, who have not liked the proposal and who in itself like the fact that we alleviate the impact. But that we never anticipated that this would make them into converts overnight, right? That would have been an illusion. So that is, I think, where we stand. Again, overall very positive, very good response, and we'll continue the conversation really soon, because in a few weeks we will have the proposal ready, and we're very much looking forward to then discussing that with this group of member states and with the European Parliament.
Hello, Rebecca Gualandi from Carbon Pulse. I was wondering for COP30, I know Cyprus and Greece, they abstained in the vote at the IMO, so I was wondering, does this set a kind of worrying precedent? How can you ensure that the EU comes to COP30 united, especially because the US and Saudi Arabia were so aggressive in their negotiations at the IMO? So it's really important that the EU is strong and also builds allies. And also I wanted to ask another question, so both for Mr. Aagaard and Commissioner Hoekstra, about the... I've forgotten my question. Okay, there was another... Oh yeah, the CBAM agenda fight. So how will you avoid a CBAM fight at the COP30? And then one last on ETS2. When would you envision the early auctions in 2026, like mid-2026? Or yeah, thank you.
Should I start out with the IMO issue? Just to go to correct you gently, Cyprus and Greece voted for the COP mandate, so all 27 countries voted for that. It is correct that we, during the day, had a small discussion on IMO. And the thing here is, IMO is not negotiated at COP. So it was a sort of, you can say, a side discussion to the COP mandate. And it is not up for climate ministers to decide on if there is needed a new European mandate on IMO. Of course, it has then to be negotiated, but it will not be dealt with among climate ministers. There are other ministers who have that responsibility. So for me, this was a minor issue because it is not directly related to the negotiations that will be at the COP. And I mean. When it then comes to the IMO results, I think it's fairly public known that there are different views among some member states on the unfortunate result that there were here over the weekend, and I just hope that the people that are in charge of dealing with that, they can produce a result as soon as possible, because meeting net zero, I mean, all sectors has to deliver, and that also goes for the global maritime sector. So that work will continue, but it is not directly linked to the negotiation that will take place at COP.
So maybe a quick response on all 3 points. First, many also again in the plenary, either with regards to the COP or with regards to IMO, but also bilaterally to me, have once again expressed the huge importance for the union of unity. That's already in the name, unity. We are a union of diversity, but the power of the union lies in at home making sure you build on each other's thinking and you build an outcome that is fit for purpose and supported by everyone, and then negotiate internationally as one. And that is also my experience at the COP. It is that fact that actually is bringing our full value to the table. But I've seen it in other files in previous walks of life as finance minister and foreign minister as well. So unity continues to be of the essence. Secondly, on CBAM, we're having this conversation with whoever wants to raise it, but we're also articulating very clearly to everyone what CBAM is and what it is not. CBAM is a tool to make sure we prevent carbon leakage. And as I'm stressing to many of our friends also in the Global South, the best CBAM is one that doesn't make any money. And why is that? Well, simply because it would mean that others would have done the exact same thing in terms of decarbonizing. And there are very, very few things fairer than asking from others to meet the same standards as we're setting for ourselves, right? So that is something we articulate empathetically, but also clearly in the context of the COP. In terms of ETS2 and pre-allowances, it would depend a bit on how the trajectory, of course, is going to go, how long we're going to take for the negotiations. But midpoint of next year would be both, I think, ambitious and decent.
Okay, I think we'll go online for one more question. Stefano from Euractiv, go ahead.
Thanks a lot. Yes, Stefano Porcello for Euractiv. I have two questions. The first for Commissioner Hoekstra. Commissioner, can you promise that if the European Parliament and the Council of the EU will move to change the ETS2 rules beyond the tweaks that you have proposed today on the market stability reserve, etc., so beyond what you're proposing, then the Commission is ready to withdraw the proposal? And then for Minister Aagaard, you said that also shipping has to reduce emissions worldwide. That's great, but today just one country managed to block the entire COP30 conclusions and then obtained exactly what it was asking for. So what is the message that this sends on greening shipping worldwide? Thanks.
I'm not sure I got every element of your question, so apologies for that. But what you were asking for in terms of a promise, to me sounds like could we guarantee things? And I always tend to say that guarantees you get on a vacuum cleaner, you don't get in political life. So what we will do, I can articulate, and that is making sure we bring this to the table. Just to be very clear, it would not be necessary to then open the ETS regulation. We will deal with the stability mechanism, but ETS will continue to be closed. I am also, based on the conversations I've had with members of parliament informally and the conversation we've had today, I am optimistic, very optimistic, that this will be embraced broadly, regardless of any additional thoughts member states might be having. So therefore I also envision a swift adoption of it, and then we can move forward.
Yes, English is not my native tongue, but I think in your question you used the wording tricks on what Mr. Hoekstra has presented. So allow me to comment on that, because if that must be a misunderstanding. If Wopke should have a new responsibility as a commissioner, I would now give you the title Commissioner for Smart Implementation, because I think that is what you have proposed on the ETS2. So just I got a little bit offended about the word tricks. I think this is serious and smart thinking on how we can implement ETS2 in a way where some of the potential negative effects on the short term can be mitigated. So just a personal.
Just one thing, sorry. I think he said tweaks, but I think the sound was a little bit. Sorry.
Okay. If I misunderstood anything, please have me excused. It was meant in a very honest and constructive meaning. So going back to your question on IMO, IMO negotiation will not take place at COP, and I don't think it's fair to say that either Cyprus or Greece blocked the mandate for COP. They had concerns about one paragraph, I think it was 5 lines or 8 lines, regarding IMO. This was, in my mind, an absolutely minor issue. We worked in the side of all the other things we had to deal with today to see if we could find a better wording that were in the text, and we simply just concluded that since IMO is not what we will negotiate in Brazil, we didn't need the text here. Very practical, very down to earth. What message does it send? It sends a clear message that EU goes into the COP and the discussion on IMO will not block that we will go there with a common position. So I think it's a quite strong signal. And then the discussion on the regulation of maritime sector, well, it's obvious for everybody that it will continue, but it will happen in another forum.
Thank you so much. I think that wraps it up for today. And as always, and a lot of you know that, I will end the press conference by giving you a little insight into our Danish mentality. Having been a journalist myself for many years, I want you to ask good questions. And we love to use these words of wisdom in Denmark. And I think there's one that we use a lot that is actually pretty fitting for today, that I think a lot of us felt like today. It's called in Danish, at sluge en kamel, to swallow a camel. But okay, the most important thing is that we got the COP conclusions, so let's go and end on a high note instead. So I'll go with this word of wisdom instead. In Danish, you can say, man beskytter den jord, man vil høste fra. So that means we need to protect the earth we wish to harvest from.